I get lost. Let's try it again.
Oh, no, you're there.
Okay, it said connection lost,
All
and
right.
yeah. So tell me about this whole situation going on in America today. What's the deal?
Well, I just got done having dinner in Manhattan, and it was my first time in the city since the lockdown in
Oh,
March.
I know who you are.
And the city,
You're that Italian guy that's on I Am Serious's channel, aren't you?
of course, man.
Oh my
That,
God,
that's
you are the funniest dude. I'm so glad it's like talking to a minor celebrity.
Oh, I'm glad you think that. I'm a big follower of yours. I listen to
Yeah,
a lot of your streams. That you
yeah,
put out some great content.
yeah. What do you think about these hillbillies? We going to be a bloodbath, and then
No,
they're not going to fight these. This would have happened a long time ago. I think when these hillbillies are confronted with this, that by the time they're ready to fight, it'll be too late.
correct.
Yeah,
100%. I totally agree with you on
yeah,
that. I think this is just a kind of a big nudge forward towards a new world order, more or less. And there's going
yeah,
to be a bloodbath. I don't think there's going to be economic collapse because there would have been one.
yeah,
It's just a big white flight push out of California or New York, let's say.
yeah.
And the people that live in rural areas, they're not just there. There's no economy there. There's just nothing there. All the capital's being steered towards, D.C., New York City, San Francisco, L.A., and Chicago.
Okay,
So if
but
you live out in the rural parts, you don't really get anything.
yeah, but I think it's more than that. I think that these elites are going for broke. They are trying to do, they've been doing this for years. It's called Agenda 21. They want to get people into these compact cities because the way they do it is they force people off these beautiful plots of land. California is a beautiful state. You think this is an organic fire, or do you think it's being set?
I believe it's being set to
Yeah,
get them off the land and steer them further into the city centers.
yeah, without a doubt, because these elites, if you ever read the Georgia Guidestones, there's several things, tenets on there that talk about population harmoniousness with nature, but one of them says get the planet down to 500 million. That's like 93% of the or 98% of the world population, and they can do it. Listen, guys are living. You realize how many guys are living true forced loneliness or incel today? It's probably pushing 60 to 70%. I don't think it's only 1 out of 10 men are living incel. I think it's huge.
Well, building upon what you just stated, because of the ease of divorce, now you have men that are 45, 50, 60 chasing younger women.
Yeah,
So it makes things more difficult for younger guys to find someone because now you're competing with guys that are now
yeah,
divorced and
yeah,
with some capital. So what you're seeing is just because of the breakdown of the family unit, it's basically kind of like a Tower of Babel scenario where it's just dog eat dog and every guy's got to fight for young fertile women, and it's just, I'm sorry, if you're 21, 22 years old and you don't have your shit together, you stand no chance because you're competing against social media and now you're competing against older men with some type of money.
right. You can't compete with that. And like I'm going to be 50 this month. I mean, I'm an old timer, but I'm not. The point is, I'm willing to date a woman that's 45, 47, but these women are not available anymore. I mean, it is weird. I'm going to just make a confession. I've told people this. I haven't been intimate with a woman in 8 years, and it's not from a lack of not trying. It's just I noticed after 2012. I mean, that the dating scene has sucked for years, for decades, but I noticed something changed after 2012. Something really
Uh,
radical changed. Yeah,
Dude, 100%. It was the rise of social media, and
yeah,
that's kind of when woke
yeah,
capital first started getting its legs.
yeah,
So it was really during Obama's second term, you saw a huge shift in like the culture, where
yeah,
everything has to be diverse, you have to
yeah,
be politically correct, and you have to have open borders, and you have to be exposed to this new flavor of international.
yeah. And you know what I noticed, that the Occupy Wall Street predated 2012. It was like that was, I think, that was October, I believe. That was in 2011 that happened. So like I'm not saying that the dating scene was great in those parts. It was pretty crappy, but like I said, after 2012, it was done. I mean, it was completely. I didn't get uglier in 1 year that it caused that, and like I said, I'm not picky about age. I don't think a 40-something-year-old guy should expect to date a 20-year-old woman. I'm not attracted to girls that young, but it's just like all women have their heads high, and there's just listen. And First has talked about this, and he's right about this. This society is so fractured. Maybe it doesn't deserve to survive. It really doesn't. If you have a society where women hate men so badly, do you think it really makes sense for that society to keep going?
Well, it comes full circle. Now they want to wreck the society that was built for them.
Right.
They have washing machines, dishwashers. They can work. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
These women, and they piss and shit all over it.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to Paul Proteus maybe like 2 years ago,
right.
and he makes a good analogy or a good point. Where has anyone else noticed guys' cars are getting smaller and women's cars are getting bigger?
Right.
Has anyone else noticed that?
I've noticed it.
Now
have you ever noticed?
It's like a status symbol.
Yeah.
To be married now is a status symbol. To have a child is a status symbol.
Oh, it is. It's a huge status symbol. In 1974, if you went out to the grocery store, all you'd see is kids in the grocery store. You almost never see kids in the grocery store. It's almost chock full of single adults. When you do see a couple kids, again, it's a status symbol. There's no such thing as the bratty little kids in the grocery store running through the aisles. That's unheard of today. And I mean, this is something that I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so I remembered that. And it's like another thing you don't see today. How often do you see pregnant women? I almost never see a pregnant woman, unless you live in the ghetto or somewhere. But there's something weird going on.
Well, the child is now an extension of her.
Yeah.
So it's like a pocketbook.
Yeah.
Right. So the baby has to have designer clothes and like a leather car seat. This is what it is. It's not about just having children. Again, it's now a sign of wealth. It's all about her, and the child is an extension of her. If it's for her to get divorced, it's not about. You're not caring about the child. You're depriving the child of its father. It's about her. She's upset. What she wants. And she's the victim.
Yeah.
I see it day in and day out, and men are kind of just walking away from either men going their own way. The incel thing is a whole other.
Yeah. But they're
a rabbit hole. But go on, sorry.
No. They're not going their own way. Men are being forced their own way. Most guys would put up with a bitchy woman if they could get laid and they had a woman in their life. I think most men are being forced to go their own way.
Look, I'm not saying I'm a good-looking guy, but I'm high up there on the pendulum.
Okay.
Women don't give a shit. You can be 6 foot something, making $250,000.
Yeah.
I have friends that make bank. Can't even get laid in a strip club.
No.
For 100.
And it's funny. It's like prostitutes are rejected. Here's another thing I've noticed. I think we've gotten to the point where paying for sex is not going to be an option. Everything is done in a virtual chat room now. And so we are living in such a dystopian society where getting physical contact with a woman is going to become a luxury off the charts because, I thought about the next step that men are going to try to do is go to massage parlors to get back rubs. And because, they've already talked about this thing with these cuddle houses and stuff. You got men that will do just about anything to be in the presence of a woman. I don't think men are dropping out. I think it's the women. Women are the ones going their own way.
Because they have everything.
Yeah.
So there's no need for them to put out. That's what guys aren't realizing.
Yeah.
They, in third world countries, they kind of suppressed women to make sure that they get their dick sucked.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
No,
if you want a moto, well, you have to, get married. You have to. The daddy's not going to provide it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And there's not enough jobs, and there's no jobs that are going to be paying you well enough for you to go and buy a moto. So you can go work part-time and get married and then get the moto, or go find a sugar daddy or something like that. Here in the United States, they have the government government largesse where they can go on welfare, SNAP programs.
Yeah.
They have Obamacare, affordable health care plan. They can now make an OnlyFans. They can have a Snapchat premium, the thought.
Yeah.
Right, so that she has all these options on how to, get resources. Where a guy has to really figure out, how do I open a business, an S corp, a 1099? Do I have to relocate? A guy is under a great deal of stress.
Yeah, but can I tell you what's really people don't understand this? I grew up in the early '90s. I was born in '70, so I remember the dating scene started to fall apart in the early '90s. I think demographics has to be a major factor that caused this. We can't just say it's the internet, it's the Tinder era, because prior to the internet, I noticed the trend already going off the charts as early as like 92, 93, where you'd go to a bar and they would advertise ladies night to get the guys there, but almost no women would show up. And this was a trend throughout the whole '90s, was ladies' night at the bar, at a nightclub, at a bar and grill, and it always was dudes showing up. And I noticed that. I said to my friend, I says, "There's got to be a shortage." I think what happened was the baby boomers, and this has been talked about, they double dipped, triple dipped into the dating pool. And when my dad owned a music store back in the 70s and 80s, the late 80s, I remember seeing guys that were 38, 39 years old, divorcees, dating and marrying 22-year-olds. That was common in the 80s. I think these guys just cleaned house and they just diluted the dating pool.
Right, well, that goes back to what I stated earlier, where now, because it's so the ease of divorce, now you're putting guys that are 50 years old back into the dating scene. Meanwhile, the woman he was married to had 2 kids, and she's got alimony, she's got child support, welfare, what have you. She doesn't have to go back into the dating scene.
Right.
And if she does, she's going to be picking what she thinks is an alpha male, a drug dealer, a bad boy, right? And that's how it starts fueling this type of baboon logic which we're witnessing, and the Hollywood social media starts reinforcing the whole bad boy image, rap culture. I call it jigaboo culture, but that gets reinforced by the powers that be.
And another thing, I do a lot of service work in a service van, and I do go out in some of these like trendier areas like Lakewood, Ohio. And one of the things I found out is like people say, well, you need to get out of the suburb you're living in and move to a different part. But here's the problem with that theory. If there were available women out there that were interested in at least talking to a guy, they'd be approaching you in public. You'd bump into them and they'd flirt with you and all that. And I remember how that was. I don't believe that moving to another city within 5 minutes or 20 minutes from you is the answer, because you can easily visit those areas and get a scoop on how it is without having to spend the money to move there. You know what I'm saying? You can just go into that town. You could call Uber, maybe go to the bars and sit around and maybe, chew the fat with someone. It doesn't take you but maybe a couple times going out on the town to kind of figure out that it's not much different.
Well, if you're exotic to that location, so for example, I went to West Virginia for about a week, and I highly doubt there's Italian Americans living in West Virginia. So when I walked into a bar, all these women started like brushing up upon me, they started doing all that stupid shit, women do their indirect ways of trying to get your attention. And I experienced that when I visited South Carolina. Now, being where I'm from, I can't get laid, because I don't drive a BMW, I don't have a 7 Series Beamer, I don't have a house on the water or a boat or all these type of things. I'm just an average guy. Yeah. So if you relocate to it, far away, where let's say if you drive a tractor if you drive a tractor and you live in Kansas and you were to go to Manhattan, your chances of getting laid do certainly increase because you're something exotic to the area. So that kind of plays into it. But no matter what, the cultural at large still is quite misandric. And even if you were to marry one of these women that are from a different state or a different country, they wind up being kind of just brainwashed into Americanism. So no matter what, it's tilted against you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that this TFL incel problem, we can't say that it's just regional in certain areas. I think it started in California. The noticeable thing was when PUA came out, it was coming out of like Culver City, California, where Ross Jeffries is from. But it's gone full circle across the country and across the globe because, and again, I'm going to get into the strong belief that there are way more men competing for women based on statistics and demographics. If, for example, it's something First said that made perfect sense. Years ago, a guy could wait till he was 45 and then jump into the dating arena, and he'd find maybe a fugly 30-year-old, okay, that wasn't married. But in this day and age, you have to establish a relationship with a girl early and stick with that girl, because if you don't, you can't catch up if you screw it up. There is no catching up.
Well, you say it best. I think it was you or that dashboard guy, where women have to be interested in guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of the TFL incel guys, they take it upon themselves and they think it's them. It's self-directed.
No.
Well, you can't do that. It's out of your control.
Yeah.
And now it's scrotal on scrotal, where it's kind of, again, this baboon logic where, it's all this peacocking bullshit where, well, I'm going to go lease a 5 Series and I'm going to, I'm not going to get my hands dirty in a trade job. I work Wall Street. I work corporate. Well,
Yeah.
The times are changing, and you're going to have to start learning how to work
Yeah.
with your hands, because if you know how to work with your hands,
Yeah.
you'll always have food on the table.
You will, but I will tell you this. What I've noticed is, despite the fact that there are millions of men living incel, you have these pockets of these like redneck Anglo-Saxon hillbillies. You and I are not Anglo-Saxon. You're Italian. I'm Ukrainian American. I'm Eastern European. It seems these Anglos have kind of their own little cultural clique, because like I go to the park a lot and I'll see these hillbilly couples. They'll have 4 or 5 kids with blonde hair, blue eyes, and it's the same guy and woman, their kids together. I do see some people who have been unscathed by this feminist shit. And it's these cultures that have somehow been able to kind of maybe live in an area where they're not caught up in this. I don't think Italian guys do as well as they did years ago, and I don't think Eastern European guys do as well. I think some of these hillbillies, they, like most of the guys that are like pro NRA and pro have the pickup trucks, they all have girlfriends and wives. They're not living in incel or TFL. And so there are some people that are avoiding this. What do you think of that?
It's because they're poor,
Right?
And they when you're poor and you don't have that many things, all you have is each other.
Right.
So when you're poor, it's like, hey, you want to fuck? All right, yeah, let's get drunk and fuck. That's great. That's kind of how it works with them.
Well, but some of them
not going on a cruise.
Yeah. Well, they're not going on a cruise. But let's take the hillbillies that are married, that have the expensive pickup truck and maybe a Harley Davidson. They've got enough expendable money to buy a few nice toys. They don't have to be poverty stricken to have some structure to have that, because, like I said, I'm not saying Jerry Springerville is a perfect world, but those people can still manage to find something. And you've got guys out there that will date a fat woman, 350 pounds with bad acne. That's how desperate guys are getting today.
Well, it's a part of its low IQ. When you have a lower
Right.
when you have a lower IQ, you tend not to overthink things.
Right.
So you like a lot of my friends that tend to still get laid, they're kind of aloof.
Right.
They don't really care that much, and then women become the ones that overthink things.
Right.
Well, maybe he's this. Well, maybe he's really thinking about me and he loves me a lot. You don't understand these things. And that's kind of where her mind starts to wander off into these kind of Mickey Mouse Disney World land, and when the guy is just retarded. The intelligence doesn't mean you're going to get laid. Neither does money. That's a lot of. I get into a lot of fights with MGTOW guys where I'm like, oh, you have to have a big war chest. I'm like, no, not really. That seems to not be the case. Nor with the incel where it's all about lookism and chiseled jaw and abs. Women could give a fuck if you have abs. They don't care.
No, they don't. That's why they came up the expression called gym cells. Because a lot of these guys, they're not bad guys, they're just doing it their thing. I don't like to be this, like, make fun of anybody, but, I'm sure most of them, you can see the ambivalent or the total, like, the women at the gym don't look at these guys. They're not riding out, like, flirting with them or anything. And, women nowadays are doing jobs that, there's women in the trades now that are doing quite well at it. And so this is really making men feel small.
Well, I got something for you.
Yeah.
Do you know where the clothes hanger abortion comes from. The wire hanger abortion comes
Yeah,
from.
it came from when I'm going to tell you where I think it came from. When prostitutes would get pregnant, their pimps would kill it. Is that correct?
Uh, yes, that kind of came after. It actually stems from Romania. The
Oh, I
country
didn't know that.
Romania.
Okay.
Under Ceausescu's Romania,
Yeah.
he basically pushed a huge feminist agenda where the birth rate was plummeting. So he decided that he mandated that all women in Romania have to have 3 kids by a certain amount of time. That the years slipped my mind.
Yeah.
So women had to go work
Yeah.
40 hours, and have 3 children. Okay,
Yeah.
and these women they couldn't support 3 children. Or 4 or 5 children.
Yeah.
So they went into the backyards and used to use a wire hanger to kill the baby.
Yeah.
And the problem is that he was forcing, because communism and feminism, they go hand in hand, he wanted women to, again, work 40, 50, 60 hours and be home caretakers and take care of the children. You can't do both.
No, and
Right?
communism is the antithesis of having lots of kids. When you live under communism, there's no sexuality. The man and the woman are relegated to slaves to the state. So even if you can find a wife under communism, sexuality is not something that's really a part of your life. It's just it's a mechanical thing just to have two kids if you're lucky, you know? So
Exactly.
yeah. It is. I know communism.
Exactly.
Communism is not sex. The Amish probably have the best sex lives in the entire country. Yes, they couple with one person, but you got Amish grandfathers and grandmothers that have 100 offspring. Where are you going to find that in America?
No, you're not gonna find, maybe a Mexican.
Yeah.
They just got over the border if you're lucky. But even they can't afford it. So
Yeah.
women are now being forced to do all these type of things. She's being brainwashed into thinking that she can marry a hedge fund manager, be an astronaut, have 4 kids, and have all these type of consumerist goods and an in-ground swimming pool. This is what she's brainwashed into believing. This is what I like to call perpetual Disney dreams.
Right.
A lot of things go back to Disney. So what we're seeing now is that I don't want to get sidetracked here, but in Vietnam, for example, women are the ones that do all the work, and the guys lay around like lions and just get drunk and gamble and shoot each other, right?
Yeah.
It's a communist country. We're seeing that now in the United States, where now guys are kind of just regulated to watching porn, going on YouTube, playing video games, going to the gym,
Right.
and that's basically their lives. You know,
Right.
I call it 13th grade. 13th grade
it's the perfect environment. Like First said, this is perfect for capitalism. Because capitalism doesn't want capitalism actually maybe likes people spending more. Although capitalism suffers under this because. But let me ask you a question. Why does it, when you watch an NFL football game, do they always portray it out to be like black people have these nuclear families with a mom and a dad, when we clearly know that's bullshit? 80% of black kids or more are out of wedlock with a guy that's possibly in prison, but they always try to make it look like everybody's happy and having a good time, which is bullshit. You know,
it's gaslighting. It's just more gaslighting for the media, which the media's been doing nonstop the last couple of years.
Yeah, like you watch the NFL, everybody can afford a nice car, everybody's beautiful, every black family is very successful. Get the freaking hell out of here. That's just nonsense. Yeah.
It's also to make black people feel bad and white people feel bad. It's kind of a ha, you don't have this, you're not beautiful kind of an attitude. Again, it stems from Hollywood. I've got done reading Donald Jeffries' Bullyocracy, and how we basically how the American system rewards the bully. I mean, you look at Trump, for example.
Yeah.
Trump is by definition a bully.
Oh, he
you're
is.
stupid. You're fired. We get off as a society when Donald Trump says you're fired.
Yeah.
You ever think about that?
Oh, yeah.
So we shit all over poor people. We shit on ugly people. We shit on handicapped people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we piss on our neighbors. I'll tell you this, living in New York, when a neighbor does bad, like let's say if a house gets foreclosed on where I live, everyone's like, he didn't make it.
Yeah.
This is disgusting.
Yeah,
that
that is kind of an attitude, and then and you're absolutely right that people are want to see other people fail. I don't want to see other people fail. Every time I meet a business owner, I'm hoping to God they're doing good. You know, I don't want to see people fail. It's not productive to.
And that's why you don't get laid. It's
Yeah.
built into the system.
Yeah.
The society does not reward a good guy. Nice guys do. Well, I don't want to say nice guys finish last because that's actually not true.
Yeah.
Nice guys play the long game, right? You save your money. You buy Bitcoin. You don't buy the BMW. You live in a small apartment. You go to take an adult education class at night, and you slowly, methodically, build up a war chest, become more intelligent. You can become more intelligent. You can learn different things. You can improve your critical thinking skills. You don't smoke pot. You don't go out drinking.
Yeah, and those guys don't get rewarded.
Shots at a bar.
I mean, like, I've never been a daily. I mean, I haven't smoked weed in years. And I'll tell you something. The guys that smoke pot, I mean, I don't think that there's any advantage to not doing drugs or alcohol. I think that people who find themselves like not going to these things, they can live a pretty boring life. I mean, it's like, it almost seems like if I was a drug addict living on Skid Row, I'd have a better chance to meet a woman than I'm doing now.
Well, pot makes you okay with being bored.
Yeah.
That's what pot does.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing great has been invented while smoking pot. The hacky sack, oh, whoopee, invented the hacky sack. At least with alcohol, some great things have been invented, like the taser and bail.
Yeah.
So these are kind of this is where we're at as a society. Now the question is there actually going to be some type of collapse? And unfortunately, what we're living through at this present moment is that we're all glued to the TV and waiting for the next big news. I mean, now we got Trump with coronavirus. I mean, it never ends. We're being blasted every day with some type of news feed that is, and it's just you're turning everything into politics. Everything you do now is politics. The car you drive, the food you eat, where you live, what your race is, your age, your sex, everything is now politicized. So that is pretty dangerous. And now you're allowing people that are basically retarded engage in the political discord via Twitter, Facebook posts, and what have you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't think this society is going to collapse? I think it is because the elites want it to collapse. They want to hit the reset button on the economy. It's already, they're in the works of trying to digitize the currency to make it in an international currency that's like on a bit chain or whatever they call that, blockchain, and they want to control it. I think that they're going to succeed at doing it because the masses are that stupid.
Well, I just got done 2 days ago doing a chat with Tim Kelly, TH Kelly 67. You guys can look him up.
Yeah.
He's well known in the conspiratorium. We talked a little about what you just stated.
Yeah.
And what I think is going to happen, I'm quite certain what's going to happen, is they're emptying the cities out. All these commercial high-rises, they're going to be retrofitted to be part of the smart grid and smart cities.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. Oh, for sure. They're gonna hoard people into those big buildings, right?
They're gonna, because listen, with 50 million people out of work and many of them still receiving some type of government assistance, you're basically at communism already. It's not really going to be communism. It's actually neo-feudalism.
Yeah.
That's digressing. So a lot of these high-rises, if you're collecting unemployment, well, you're going to be forced to go, not forced, but basically if you're collecting UBI, you're not going to get it for free. They're going to want you to work in the cities. So you're going to be tending to these massive commercial spaces, and they'll be retrofitted for living spaces, and they're also going to be vertical gardens, because that is what is at hand and what it is they want through sustainable development, because they don't want you out in the rural parts. You're harder to control when you're out there and managing farms.
Yeah.
They'd rather control you in the city, so they build upwards.
I mean, to me, this is suicide. I would just end my life as quick as I could. This is not something I'd want to live through. I don't know about you, but can you say yourself, I mean, when you live in this type of neo-feudalism in this modern day, you're not getting laid. You're not going to meet women. So you're going to basically, I don't wonder how life is going to be for the women do you think eventually these elites will just tell these women, okay, you've been duped, now it's time to pay the piper? And, because I just can't see one being, right now women are treated like celebrities. So to say that this will continue indefinitely can't go on forever either under this type of system.
Well, what do you think the OK Karen meme came from. White girl's turn to get thrown under the bus because she didn't reproduce.
Yeah.
Right? So now the party's over for her. AOC, Cortez, the lunatic, the Puerto Rican lunatic,
Yep.
tweeted and stated earlier last week
Mm-hmm.
that brunch is now over.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean, brunch is now over? Well, it's the end for white girl and her party.
Right.
See? And
Yeah.
she doesn't seem to realize that now it's going to be turned on her.
Yeah.
That, you know, she demanded abortion. She marched with Black Lives Matter. She marched with Antifa. She thought it was cool throwing a Molotov cocktail and doing a selfie.
Yeah.
But guess what? You've been a good, useful idiot.
Yeah. Well, my dad, I knew this because I watched the special. Anytime the communists come to power, they murder the very people that helped them get to the top. What Stalin did right after he won the overthrew the Tsar in 1917, the very first thing that he did was murder the very people who helped start the revolution with him, because he knew that he couldn't trust them, and he would do these purges every few years. He would purge his most loyal people, and he'd say, "But Mr. Stalin, I'm loyal to you," and he'd still kill them because he knew that he couldn't. And it makes sense too. I mean, if you can get people to do evil shit, you can't trust them either.
Well, it was all. Stalin did it to his generals during the early part of World War II, where he would just keep whacking 4-star generals over and over if they, retreated or lost a certain specific checkpoint. And also during the Cold War in Africa, you'd get, there would be this one Marxist president or dictator. He would get whacked within 3 or 4 months, and then a neo-Marxist would come along, and then he would get whacked after 2 years. And it was like, who can outdo who? Trotsky and Lenin used to get drunk and used to debate on how far left we can go. And one of their debates was living spaces, a matter of fact. And I think it was like Trotsky was like, well, do we give them each their own room? And then Lenin would be like, no, they can't have rooms. That's a sign of private property, and that means they're an individual. They need to sleep out in the open. And Trotsky goes, well, what about bathrooms? And Lenin would go, they have to take a shit and piss out in the public, everything in the open, and share your wives and the community kitchen, and basically turn housing into these type of open air dormitories. Yeah. So the problem is with the left, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going, and it cannibalizes itself. Whereas people on the right, on the far right, it's a stoplight. Like no, and even at that point, it starts cannibalizing itself. So either way, it becomes not balanced.
Yeah. I don't think it's sustainable, but I think that the free lunch for the women now is gone. Now, here's what the MGTOWs used to always say, like the MGTOWs used to, back in 2015, I don't know if you remember the evolution of MGTOW, but in 2015, Angry MGTOW, who was MGTOW United, he went by at the time, he had this like vision, like a bunch of MGTOWs are going to be sitting in a bomb shelter with a big screen TV, watching women be suffering, going and see now you get. But I don't think it's going to play out like that. I think men will suffer first. Let me ask you what you think of this. When this is an adage I came up with. When women how do I say this? When women are when women are inconvenienced, men are suffering. When women are suffering, men are dying. Male suffering will always take precedent over anything women deal with. So if a woman is feeling sad and sorrowful, there's probably a man out there who's in much worse shape. You know what I'm saying? It never is 50-50.
Well, if you're talking about war, women suffer far worse than men. And if you're now living in a Western country...
Oh, I don't know. No. What do you mean men suffer worse? How do they suffer? Women suffer worse how? Men get killed. They're murdered.
They can't defend themselves, women. What the hell are they going to do? They're going to look for a white knight? But this is what I'm trying to get at. Is that you told the white knight he's useless, he's a loser, go fuck yourself, you're a nobody. Well, guess what? The white knight is walking away. You know, there was in Cologne, Germany, son of a bitch. Was it Cologne, Germany? There was some Christmas thing in Germany, and then all the Muslims showed up and started raping all the white women,
Yeah.
and then the white women ran to the white guys, and you know what the white guys did?
What?
They walked away.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not helping you.
Yeah.
This is what you wanted, sweetheart. So I think in the West, you're kind of like the women are like, oh my God, I'm really left out in the wind here. I'm in a lot of trouble because the society. I really shitted on the nice guy. Now I need the nice guy.
Yeah.
Well, the nice guy's walking away. He's going his own way.
Yeah.
So in the West now, women are gonna have to act straight real quick. Otherwise, they're in big trouble. Now, as far as guys, war is a means to an end, and where they're set free. Because I think who said it? Like, a white guy with nothing to lose is the most frightening human being on planet Earth. And I agree with that. I happen to agree with that because, as much as we see Black Lives Matter, I call it the COVID chimping out, LA riots, Watts riots, Ferguson, they still won't come to the suburbs. Why? Because they know that crazy white dude's waiting for them. Black men look at white guys as being sexual deviant, which is pretty true. They see white guys as being like, yo, that guy's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I just need to stay away from his ass. So
I disagree. I think white people are more intimidated by blacks. It's always been that way. White people generally don't stand up to blacks. When blacks get belligerent, whites usually back down on them.
Because he has something to lose.
Yes.
You see, but when you're a white guy with nothing to lose.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Much more frightening.
Yeah.
It becomes a much more frightening experience. So let's say, take Drew Brees, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Drew Brees won a Super Bowl. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's 40-something, still playing football.
Right, 41.
Yet he had to go and apologize. Well, what are you doing? Well, he's beholden to someone. Obviously, someone's blackmailed. Not so much blackmailing. I just think because of all the... basically all the things that he's taken for granted and he thought were free, like people give him free meals when he goes out, and gift cards to his favorite restaurant, things like that. So when you're somebody with nothing to lose, then people lose it more or less. And with the economy as it is, they're trying to print as much money as possible to try to put you to sleep, because if the economy were to collapse or Trump were to die, then all bets are off, and may God help us all for the country.
Right. It seems these elites, though, one of the reasons I was pointing out on my last video about how these hillbillies don't want to fight back, these Billy Joe, we're gonna fight back. But you know what? The thing is, these people, these elites, psychologically study us like children. They have studied these people for like 70 years. These rural people. I mean, they have these social scientists. They spend a lot of time analyzing these social trends of these people, so they kind of know what to expect. Do you follow what I'm saying? They're not stupid. The George Soroses and the people that run the media, they're not stupid people. They have very highly IQ people that know how to manipulate public opinion.
You are 100% correct. Now, let me build upon that. Because there hasn't been a serious conflict where the United States has been invaded. Actually, we've never. When was the last time we were invaded? War of 1812 by the Canadians?
No, I think the Battle of Alamo, maybe the Battle of the Alamo.
Yeah, you're right, Alamo. Sorry, you got me there. So they had time to study human pathology. No,
right.
Anthropology. It's a weaponization of anthropology.
Right.
And I spent, I don't know if you listened to me and IAM's live streams, but I spent about 4.5 years in Cambodia. So I got to work alongside NGOs and kind of the soft power, the silk glove, the George Soros types. And I became acquainted and friendly with them and listened to what they said. And what they do in order to like move up in like an Open Society Foundation, the George Soros Foundation, it's called Open Society, you have to do your dirty work. You have to get your hands dirty. So first what they'll do is send you to some like godforsaken land in Africa, and you have to stay there for 2 years and study some fucking tribe in no man's land, right? And
right.
You have to write like a thesis on how they operate, how they basically how the sexes work together, how does marriage work.
Go ahead. Sorry. I get disconnected here. On.
What areas would have along with other tribes, so they would write these huge to
Go ahead. So I'm getting a bad signal here.
done it here in the United States. In the United States, there's the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation.
Right.
And that was really done pretty much after World War II. That's when they started studying more about human psychology.
Yeah.
That's when they started studying more about the family. Well, how do we break up the family? In the late 60s and early 70s, when they rolled out, what is it, the war on poverty, when they started giving welfare out. Well, what they did was, little tidbit here, is okay, do you want to receive welfare? Well, the man cannot be living inside the house if you want welfare. Right. That is what they did to the African American community, to break up the African American family.
Right.
So the guy would have to leave the house and then sneak into the housing projects late at night to be with his family. And then when morning came, he'd have to run back out, because if he were to get caught living and sleeping inside that house, the wife would lose the welfare.
And I think that rule still applies, if I'm not mistaken. If a woman collects welfare, does she not have to? She can't just let a guy live there, can she?
Well, for whatever reason, the Hispanic community seems to get around all that shit. For whatever reason, here's the thing with the Hispanic community. They run parallel to this whole Mickey Mouse
They do. They seem to avoid it. Really yeah.
They avoid it completely. Yeah. Do you see a Hispanic guy with a BMW or a Gucci bag?
No, you
or
don't.
Anything of the sort, listening rap music?
No.
They don't.
They're very conservative.
Yeah, they are. And their divorce numbers that we have on paper, they say, well, look at the divorce rate in the Hispanic community. They get divorced so they can get the welfare, when in fact they're still together.
Right.
So they use the system against you. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to be legal. That's the other thing. Well, they need to come out of the shadows. They don't want to be legal, because that means they have to pay taxes. They that.
You're right. That's a good point there. Yeah, the Hispanics, the Mexicans, they seem to live in a universe. They live in the same frequency we live in, but you don't have many guys in the internet that are TFL incels that represent the Puerto Rican or Mexican community. It's very far and few. And we have to acknowledge that, why is this problem a white problem and a black problem? Why is it not a problem with certain ethnic groups like black people or off the boat Asians? We have to look at psychologically or sociologically, why are Hispanics not affected by TFL like white people are?
Yeah, why aren't they? Well, first of all, because they have a lot of bravado, machoism.
Yeah.
They act more like men, basically. Like, no, you're not leaving me, or I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. Like,
I think that it's more than they have a system. Our social system is set up where if you are a sad and depressed Puerto Rican guy, your mom sets you up with the girl, your sister sets you up. Like, my sister, for example, she never, and she had 3 brothers, I was one of them, she never would think about setting her brother up with one of her friends. I mean, it was almost like we were an embarrassment, if anything. And the funny thing was, and she was a very attractive girl. And she would sit there and tell me, and she died a couple years ago, but she thought TFL was all bullshit. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. You could find somebody if you really wanted to. And the thing that they don't understand is, like, in the Hispanic culture, they don't say, oh, my brother's a dork. My brother's a dork. That's just, no, they get their brother a woman. It's a different culture.
No, my brother's amazing. You should meet my brother.
Yeah.
They don't put their family members down.
Yeah.
They talk shit about their family.
And that was perpetuated by 1980s Hollywood, where, like, you had movies like Just One of the Guys, where the proverbial nerdy brother that just wants to get laid, and the girl would just be some beautiful damsel who, because of her genetically good looks, she would be seen as a victim, but her brother's a dork, and it's like, Hispanics don't do that to their brothers. They're like they want to get their brother a date or get her, get him married. So there's a totally different dynamic, and I don't know who to blame for this. I mean, people say it's Hollywood, it's Jews or whatever. I think we've allowed ourselves to get this blame, and we really only got to blame our own egos and ourselves for this shit.
Well, again, it goes back to the bullyocracy.
Yeah.
It's American narcissism at its fullest.
Yeah.
It's I'm better than you. That's generally the attitude. And a lot of that comes,
It comes from the suburban center. Yeah.
I don't think,
yeah.
I don't see that being an issue, let's say, in like Missouri or where you're from in Ohio. Ohio's a little bit much more suburbia, but again, I don't see that being such an issue, or Georgia and such. But that at least comes from like the urban dog-eat-dog behavioral sync type scenario where it's this Darwinistic attitude about things where if you're not a winner, you're a loser,
right,
and you should just kick dirt in your face, kind of a thing.
Right. So where do we go with this? I know you guys have talked about this on I Am Serious's channel. Is there any hope for guys who are living incel? Do you see this incel TFL problem carrying on for another generation? I see no hope in sight for it. I see it getting worse and worse to the point where having a woman and a wife in your life is going to be a luxury only afforded to the very wealthy.
We spoke with Paul Elam over the weekend. It was amazing. It was such an absolute treasure to speak with Paul Elam. Guys, Paul Elam is so cool. He was amazing to talk to. We in a period. So when social media really started skyrocketing, I happen to live in Asia, and what the first thing that I noticed, the biggest change was, wow, you can't be like getting a girl's number now. Like, that doesn't mean anything. In 2009, like, if you got a girl's number prior to 2010, you knew you were going on a date and probably getting laid. Like, 100%. At least that was the case for me. Again, I was, like, in my early 20s, but I know when I got a girl's number, I was like, oh, right, yeah, I'm going to hang out with her. We're going to smoke weed, hang out, fucking party, go get something to eat, whatever it is. And, you would start dating her. Today, if I get a girl's number, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, you follow me on Instagram. I'm like, no, I'm not following you on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is what guys are going to have to realize. Don't go chasing for it. You set the rules. You guys have to put.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think you're saying you can control this. It sounds like you're saying that you control your destiny. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I think that your destiny is pretty much cut. This new world we're living in, where see, Paul Elam is such a. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I don't like Paul Elam because he's a boomer. He's very argumentative. He let females take over the show. I called him out on it in 2011. He says, "Mind your own effing business. You don't have a right to tell me." I simply told Paul Elam, you let Typhon Blue and Karen Strown take over your show, and I says I don't think it was.
You're right.
And he did. And
that criticism.
Go ahead. Well, when I emailed him about it, he said, you have nothing to know what I don't have the email anymore, but he said, you don't know what you're talking about, and I don't need your advice or whatever. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I listen. I totally listened. I today, for whatever reason, I was kind of like upset. I'm like, man, I haven't had a girlfriend in like 3 years now, and this is starting to get on me or whatever. And then I looked through my phone book, and I realized, I'm like, damn, I got no chicks in my phone book I can really hit up and stuff. And for the few, now, again, I'm in my early 30s, and of course, all the women from high school that haven't been married or don't have kids, they all start coming out of the woodwork, and I'll get a message, hey, is this so-and-so? And I'm like, who the fuck is this? What? And it's Deirdre. It's Brittany. Brittany I'm like, what are you doing messaging me? Well, I just wanted to catch up and see how you're doing and stuff.
Oh, you poor thing. I'm going to be sarcastic and say, oh, you poor thing. You're actually getting women hitting you up. I haven't had a woman flirt with me in 8 years. I mean, I haven't. And you're complaining about women from years past flirting with you?
Well, no, I'm not. Listen, I'm not complaining about it. But the point is first of all, they didn't pick me when they were hot and fertile. Say that's number one. And also, I'm lonely, I'm this. My therapist told me, I go, wait a second. You're 26 years old and you're seeing a therapist? what the fuck? What is wrong with you?
And you've got social you've got even social. I have no social interaction with women. I'm in the same boat as Hell by the Dashboard Light. I do have some old burner or my old cell phone contract. I had a burner phone I had one time, but I had a lot of phone numbers from maybe 12 years ago. But I don't have I have maybe one female phone number in my regular cell phone that I can maybe call and talk to, but I don't have like women have dozens of guys they can call. I don't have a girl that if it boiled down to me having to get a date over in the next 24 hours with a girl, my life, and I would be done. I would they said, Steve, you got 48 hours to go out to randomly call girls and ask them if they want to go out. I would be toast. I would be toast. There's no way.
So you're saying if I held the gun to your head, Steve, you got 24 hours to go on a date. Make it happen.
Yeah. I think it would be impossible because you would get rejected and getting laid would just simply be out of the question. I mean, that would be the net nail right there. And it's something that Hell by the Dashboard Light, before he lost his mind, he went crazy, by the way, but he was really sane for a couple years, or about the first year he did videos. And he did some really good work where he did video after video of him driving in his car, and he articulated all these problems of what was going on in society. And I have to honestly tell you, this problem is only getting worse. I mean, my honest opinion is most women are in dating limbo, which means they don't date for months and years. I know attractive women that have not had a date in a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. No, because they can always find a guy willing to fuck them.
Yeah.
Right? In the past, it was if you're 30, you're done. In most countries, a woman that's 30 is finished.
But she's not in this country. She can be 50 and be riding the cock carousel.
Right. It's so weird hearing grandma go, "Oh, this is my boyfriend." I'm like, wait a second, what do you mean? Yo, you're 65. What do you mean you have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
So again, this distortion of the sexes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it, again, goes back to Disney World. I think putting Western women on the pedestal is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And the media perpetuates this. Let's be real. You don't see that many black porn stars, right?
Yeah,
There's a couple reasons for that.
Well, black female porn stars
have sex with white women, so that reinforces the whole. Problem. Indian guys. I mean, Indian guys will just go crazy for a white woman, right? And again, if you let people from India into your country and all they do is follow white girls around, and that inflates their egos further.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things you have to look at. And a lot of it has to do with Hollywood when it comes to the.
I think. First, or Insomatics had a guy on his show. First did where the guy said that he dressed like a woman. He went incognito. He got more attention being a woman as a man dressed as a woman than he did as a normal man. Positive attention. So.
Right. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Now, living in Southeast Asia, as I did, and I am lived in Southeast Asia much longer than I did, longer than I have, there's a lot of transgenders, okay?
Yeah.
If you go to Thailand, they recognize transgender as the opposite sex. I think it's the only country that does that.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do men feel compelled to wear high heels and chop their dicks off? Right. Why do you think, Steve?
Because I think that it's the only way that they can socially get accepted and fit in and have a constant attention, which is a validation. I mean, let's face it, even being a guy, even if you're not getting laid, if you got attention from females, it feels good. It hits there's a thing called the hypothalamus in your brain or whatever, the pleasure center, and it stimulates that part of your brain. That's my opinion.
So yes, that's the narcissistic aspect of things. The narcissistic aspect, which Steve just stated, also is correlated with the reflection that you love yourself so much that I can't picture myself being with another woman, so I might as well be a woman. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. The other thing is women have hypoagency, hypergamy.
Right.
I want what women have. I don't want to be an HVAC technician. I don't want to learn how to work a socket wrench.
Right.
I don't want to be disposable. So I might as well be a woman. And I'll rather have be sodomized and get what I need by putting myself out there and basically being a whore.
And you know what? I would say that if you dress like a trainee, you find some freaky woman, but there's a lot of these guys that cross-dress that are only into pussy. So you could realistically find yourself more attractive to women because there are women that like trainee guys that are go for those cross-dressers. So you're like, I could almost say, even if I dressed up and looked like a hideous woman, I still probably get more attention than being a dude. I'm dead serious.
Well, okay. So the other issue is, where exactly are you supposed to meet women?
I don't think there's any place you can meet them. I really don't.
There is no place.
There is no place anymore. It's the grocery store is not the place. You're wearing fucking masks now. But it didn't matter. Pre-COVID didn't matter. The dating scene was already fucked up. So there's these other things that I've noticed, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you studied this, but there's a group called meetup.com. And about 7-8 years ago, you could go to those meetup.com events, and you can meet a good selection of men and women together doing hiking together and whatnot. They're vetting who they let in these groups now, and particularly the men they're vetting. And the women's groups used to advertise, hey, the female group's going to meet up at Olive Garden or whatever. Now the women, apparently what I kind of gathered, and I can't prove this, but a lot of guys were showing up at these events uninvited. Like, if you're a bunch of women and you advertise where you're going to be, is it realistic to say a bunch of horny scrotums are going to show up? Probably. And so...
Thirsty men.
Yes.
Thirsty men, they're cringing. They're cringing on women. These are the guys that ruin it for everybody
They do,
else.
yes.
These are the guys that basically, I call it like a Pepe Le Pew problem, where all they do is just, they're a guy that follows women around. You'll see them on a street corner, like 3 girls walking, and then there's that one guy just chasing after them, like, 3 paces behind them. Like, wait for me, girls, wait for me. It's that guy liking every message on Facebook. It's the guy following girls that he don't even know on Instagram.
Right.
These guys ruin it for everyone else.
Right. Well, the problem is that these meetup groups are such a sausage fest now, and you can't get into them, and they're already cock blocking men. Like, the men that are the leaders of these groups, they will cock block you out of there, and it's getting to the point where, like, this is what I gather, is that it's there are no places for men to meet women at all anymore. There simply isn't everybody's always looking for a diamond in the rough. I'll just move to some small hick town and I'll be the best looking guy in that town. Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you're the only guy thinking that thought, but there's 500 other guys thinking that same thought too.
Right. I was telling Incel Mantix last month when he came on the live stream with Sandman. When I lived in Cambodia, I was so I was like a prize. So I had a bunch of women and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of social media and because of the internet, now all these young guys want to go abroad to either Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, Indonesia, and they're doing what I did when I was 24. And it's kind of
it's saturated.
The market.
The market's already, the meme is already out there. Once the meme becomes mainstream, it's like, it would be nice to live to Idaho or Montana, but now the masses want to do it. It's no fun anymore,
Yeah, the only thing I can honestly say, if you're a guy who's a TFL or a guy who identifies a TFL incel, and it really bothers you that much, the first thing you have to realize, you have to just forget American women, like just straight up.
Oh yeah, you do, you do, and they're going to start restricting travel. I was watching this episode one time, and I don't watch many episodes of it, but I ran into this episode of Law and Order one time, and they're always interrogating people for sex crimes, and he said, don't you know it's against the law to go overseas with the intention of having sex with a woman? I thought, are you fucking out of your mind? Like, they're gonna tell you that it's against the law to go overseas with the intention of wanting to have, like that's a crime? It's like a thought crime?
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That's pretty scary, man.
Yeah.
It was, the other thing, like when I was living over in Southeast Asia, women that you see, like, if you go to the supermarket or you're buying something, or just again, like if you just bump into a random stranger that's the opposite sex, they're pleasant. They acknowledge you, that you exist. In the United States, they're not acknowledging you, and that's a danger. That's the rise of incel. That's very dangerous, where you don't even acknowledge the other. And that, what we're seeing here is a very dangerous kind of brew, witch's brew, where you're not even acknowledging a guy's existence.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Are you incel at 32? I don't believe you're doing very well with women, because if you were, you probably wouldn't be on here. I mean, it just I
got just a little bit about myself, because this is the first time I'm speaking to Hoca. I got into the whole MGTOW thing because I was on Stefan Molyneux's Free Domain Radio, and that video of my phone call with Stefan Molyneux went viral in 2015 or 16, and a couple guys messaged me saying they want me on their podcast. You seem really cool, yada yada yada. And I went on a couple MRA and MGTOW streams and podcasts, and was a guest on one of these podcasts, and he messaged me saying, hey, do you want to come on and do a live stream with me? And me and him have become like best friends ever since. So it was never my intention to fall into MGTOW or this type of manosphere. It kind of just happened that way. And it's talking about women and men's issue and sociology. I can phone that shit in.
Okay, you're good at, you understand it, but I'm saying, are you living it? Are you living the life of a guy that?
Yeah, I'm not getting laid, dude. I'm not getting laid.
Okay.
You know what it is? When I lived in Southeast Asia, Asian women are far more pragmatic about sex. There's no love. Love does not exist in an Asian mindset. Chinese people think white people are fucking retarded when it comes to love. They actually think it's a mental disorder for young men.
Yeah.
That's what they think it is. So when I had an Asian girlfriend, she was half Chinese and half Khmer. She really opened. She basically red-pilled me into women's hypergamy. And I remember one time we're sitting down on the couch and stuff. She goes, "I can fuck any guy I want. What makes your dick better than everyone else's?" And I'm like, you know what? That says a lot right there. And I remember I joked about it. I said something like funny to her, and she started laughing. It kind of eludes my mind, where it was like something where I have an air conditioner and I have.
If she, you know what though? At least American women always play the damsel. American women always play this what's called plausible deniability. Why don't women just say to men, "Hey, look, I got a hole between my legs and I can get away with this," because they like to play the stupid role of plausible deniability. Like that playing that stupid girl always seems to make them more marketable. Do you know what I'm saying? I think most. Yeah.
It's childish. It's absolutely repulsive, disgusting American culture.
Right.
Women are the rest of the world. Women are far more assertive. They're much more authoritative. Like, I want this. If they like you, they'll come up to you.
Yes.
Like you.
Exactly. Like this girl that I'm talking to, she's Filipina, and she's about 40 years old, so I'm not looking to date a younger girl. But you know what she said to me? I said, like, if we meet, are we going to have sex? She goes, yeah. It's like, isn't that what normal people do? I mean, she's just, like, very practical about the sex thing. And I thought to myself, could you imagine saying that to an American woman? Like they go into this hyper, like, I've seen these girls that are strippers. This was when I was, like, in my early 20s. And they would get irate if a guy would, like, say to them, "Do you do tricks on the side?" And they say, "What do you think I am, a whore?" And deep down, these women were whores, because not only were they stripping for money, but they were doing tricks on the side. But they would always play this role like as long as they can play plausible deniability, they'll do it. Asian women don't do that.
No. And in Latin, women tend to do what American women do, just to a lesser extent.
Yes, exactly.
To a lesser extent.
Yeah.
So basically, where it's like they basically want to make you look like an idiot. Right? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? And again, it's this whimsical, childish attitude. You mentioned about California before regarding this whole Americanism that we're witnessing, this mantra, and it's the Valley Girl, the thought. Valley Girl is the thought, right?
Yeah.
That's really what we're seeing, and that whole be like. What does that mean? So you see this is kind of permeating, and it's the Valley Girl. That's a Frank Zappa song. That's 40 years ago now.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that took 40 years to spread across the United States, where all American women are now boilerplate of the Valley Girl.
Oh, that was Frank Zappa. That was that early '80s song called Valley Girl.
Yes.
I remember.
Where he's making fun of thoughts. That's a thought. A Valley Girl is a thought.
Yeah, but they play that role like the stripper that tells the guy, "What do you think I am, a whore?" You know, and it's like, yeah, you know, it's like, and it's just American women love to play this plausible deniability. I don't know why. It's like as if we know that they know that. I would respect American women more if they said, "Look, I have a hole between my legs. I know it's worth a lot, and it's too damn bad." That might be bitchy, but I think I'd respect them more. But this playing this plausible deniability is like as if they're damsels in distress is such bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, man.
Yeah. I got a guy here. He said he went to a stripper to the VIP room, and she said, "Do I look like a slut to you?" Oh God.
And you have to just be upfront with them. Like, yeah, you do. My grandfather got accosted by some young teenage girl, and my grandfather said something like, nasty to her about her appearance and stuff. And the young girl goes, "You're a misogynist." And my grandfather goes, Yeah, I am. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
He's 85 years old and stuff, but it goes to show you that you can't let this happen. I'm trying to find a quote here from Christopher Lash. Just bear with me.
Right.
I quoted something. Son of a bitch. But yeah, how did you come about in doing all this with TFL and stuff, might I ask?
I actually was into it. Bill Greathouse, who has a channel, he had his channel kicked down. He came up with the name True Forced Loneliness, and he did a 3-part video, and he talked about the dating scene. He created a name for something that I didn't know there was a name for. I'm glad he came up with a definition for it, because he described exactly how a guy goes year after year after year without a woman in his life or a date, and he sees a guy with the girl, and it just drives him, and it made sense. And so hence the term True Forced Loneliness, or TFL for short, and it's gone a long way. And then, of course, it's crept into the idea of incel. I don't like incel. It kind of makes you look like a horn dog, but it seems like incel is the most popular term now,
Well, I think incel's a psyop, to be honest with you.
It probably is, but
I'm in the middle of writing an article for the American Sun about incel being a psyop.
Well, I think it may be a psyop, but I will say this: incel, whether you call it incel or TFL, the bottom line is we have a problem between the sexes in this country.
Well, these young guys, like the incel Mantix, he's 24 years old. Now, I already moved abroad when I was 24, so I never had that type of problem. And prior to me being 24, I didn't have too much of a problem with women. But again, that was pre-social media. So take that,
Right. Well, this is why you need to do an interview with him, because I think if you and him interviewed, or the three of us did, we could have this, because he's probably going to disagree with you, but I think that he's probably the best guy out there right now, because he's explaining the demographics. He's talked about the fact that our previous generations, it just most boomers are like, "Well, I met your dad, it just happened." How did it just happen? I mean, to get a woman now for a Gen Xer now, it doesn't just happen. You've got to be in these prefabricated social groups that are almost impossible to get into unless you're at a very early age.
Yeah, he was on. We did a live stream with him about a month ago. Him and Sandman and Face the LMS.
Yeah, Face and LMS. I'm sick of his his Chad theories are getting overloaded or boring, because his idea is that the Chad is getting all the women, but yet nobody knows who this Chad guy is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now listen, going back to the whole Valley Girl thing, I want to share this quote.
Okay, go ahead.
And your listeners, this is amazing. The compulsive use of the word "like" conveys a disbelief in the objective reality of their surroundings. It blurs every boundary, retracts every assertion, and thus serves notice that the speaker is not to be held accountable for anything she says. Be like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to repeat it one more time. The compulsive use of the word like conveys a disbelief in the objective reality of their surroundings.
Oh.
It blurs every boundary, retracts every assertion, and thus serves notice that the speaker is not to be held accountable for anything she says. So when a girl says the word like over and over and over again, it's her way of saying, like, I don't want to be held accountable. I don't want to take responsibility for whatever it is I'm stating, because what I'm stating is retarded.
Well, how did he come to that conclusion, though?
Oh, it was a book. It was a quote from a book that I found amazing. And
okay, so when they say I'm like, I like totally gnarly, like I'm like he actually read into the word like as if
yes.
And he's reading into it as if it's a way that she can play the plausible deniability or stupid, or
100%, dude.
Yeah. And that's a good point there. And women love plausible deniability. Can I tell you something that I did one time, and I probably shouldn't have done this? I had a girl that was zoning me in the pool. This was several years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And she came into the tub that I was sitting in. So we started to talk, and I wasted no time telling her that I know you're attracted to me. And she said, why do you know? I says, because you were looking at me, then you zoned me and came into my zone. And it's so fucking obvious. She's kind of a big girl. Well, then all of a sudden, she kind of retracted away and said, well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And I told a friend of mine about that online, and he told me, he said, what happened was she went into that plausible deniability. She didn't want to admit that you were right, that she was attracted to you, so she got offended by that very comment. Do you follow me?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, so the next time I was at that pool, like, she never came out there again. And I think that I creeped her out because I was so direct with her. But in a foreign country, like if I would have said it to a Filipina, she probably would have said, yeah, I did think you're cute, you know?
Yeah, like I said, when I was living in Asia, women would just come up. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm stepping outside. That girls would make it known that they liked you, and also they wear the hypergamy on their sleeve. It's almost charming, and black women do this too to a lesser extent. I feel kind of bad for black chicks. I think black chicks are really cool, and if guys are really that concerned about not finding someone and stuff, go chase black women, man. Black women are awesome, dude.
You got to be physically attracted to the culture too. I mean, like if you're gonna date a black girl, you're probably gonna date a girl that's pretty big, you know.
Yeah, but again, look, if okay, see, now this is where I get upset with the whole incel guys. Incel guys, okay, if there's incels listening to the stream, listen, the Dallas Cowboy cheater is not going to love you if you McDonald's, okay? I'm sorry. I got bad news for you. You should start lowering your expectations a little bit and maybe dating a little bit of a heifer. Shit sucks. Life sucks. But if getting laid is that important to you, you can try.
I disagree with you. What you're talking about is called juggernaut theory. Juggernaut theory is when you shoot your standards low so that you can get something. The problem is that almost every guy is doing that. There's girls that are on forums now that have bad acne and they're complaining, and all these guys are simping and saying, "Oh, baby, you're beautiful. Can I go out with you?" I mean, there's no end in sight to simpery. Simpery is going to get every. I don't think there's any holy Hail Mary pass in this dating scene. I don't think that you can find just date a fat girl. That would be great. If you were into fat girls, that would be great, but I don't think it's even possible to date that even. I mean,
you might be right, man. Like I said, I really haven't been trying to date anybody since I've been back in the U.S. because after my experience in Cambodia, I realized that you have to have some type of first you have to have some type of money, and you have to allure women to liking you. You have to have something. having a flashy personality, being indifferent to society, these are also kind of a plus. Women do like these type of things.
Yeah, but that I don't think
realize
that
that you have to have
if James Dean rode out to the gym on a Harley or on his old '50s motorcycle, I don't think James Dean could get laid today like he could in the '50s. I think James Dean would be seen as too threatening, if anything. So I just don't think.
Marilyn Monroe would be considered disgusting by her figure today,
Yeah.
by today's standards.
Why would she be considered disgusting? That's the norm now to have a chunky. What?
Okay, now what you're talking now, Hoca, is the Africanization of American women,
Right.
where now let themselves go and just have a big old onion booty flapping and twerking and stuff when in fact she's just obese and she's not taking care of herself. In the 90s, or the sex icons of the 90s, Carmen Electra, Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
These were women that were fit. They were physically
Oh
fit,
yeah, of
strong,
course, yeah.
You know, but then J-Lo came.
And Beyonce's got a huge butt.
And Beyonce. Right, but even Beyonce, she's kind of not even black anymore. She's like, her hair's blonde, and she's like, she's like bleaching her skin. She's not even a black woman anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if you go back 20 years when she was with Destiny's Child, she didn't look anything like this. And her partners, the two other chicks in Destiny's Child, they're regular black chicks.
Yeah.
But again, Beyonce, I think, is a whole part of the whole New World Order type of thing with Jay-Z and stuff. But we're getting off topic. The point is that when J-Lo came around and Beyonce, and then down the road came Shakira, it was all about the ass. Yeah. It's all about you have to have ass meat. If you go to Dominican Republic, women have ass injections and ass implants. It's disgusting. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. What has happened here?
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's just like you have to, but I think that this thing is going full circle. Now we've got the riots, and I know all falls into this. I think that if things get bad in this country, maybe TFL incel won't be such a bad situation. Most people will adapt to it very well.
Well, it's because of woke capital aspect of things, pushing the whole homosexual agenda, and what put I don't know if you ever followed Pacific Ocean Asia, Pacific Ocean Asia liner. He was big in the MGTOW.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but I've seen his channel. Yeah.
He used to have a lot. He used to have like 40,000, and then he got
trolled,
and he had a YouTube account. But he made a good is that he says the only other people willing to give me attention are gay guys.
Yeah.
And this gives the rise of the homosexuals. Where, well, now I'm not advocating for this by any stretch. Make no mistake about it. But I make a point to I am all the time. I go, now you're seeing more guys going gay. Why? Because the only people willing to give a guy attention is other guys.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, that's.
So, feedback.
But that plausible deniability is probably what allows women to do what they do, because they can always play the role that I wasn't thinking that. How dare you tell me that I came up into your zone because I liked you? What makes you think that you're right? Because, and I think plausible deniability is a wonderful thing because it can protect a man too. I mean, we as men do it too, but women tend to do it a lot more. When it comes to their sexuality, if a woman knows that her sexuality is what gets her what she wants in life, she's not going to say it's what it gets her. She's going to just say, well, what makes you think that I'm just using my body to get what I want, you know?
Look at the rise of OnlyFans. I mean, is that not prostitution? Look, there's no such thing as little prostitution, okay? If you have an OnlyFans account and you have a Snapchat premium, you are by definition a prostitute, right? And because we're now living inside our rooms and we can't go out and meet anybody, well, now the OnlyFans and Snapchat, these social media conglomerates, they're multinationals, by the way, are becoming the pimp. Never forget, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Match, and Plenty of Fish are all owned by the same corporation.
Right. Which isn't Hillary Clinton, or wasn't Chelsea Clinton involved in Tinder? She's one of the executives there.
Well, that's frightening.
Yeah, I heard someone say that Chelsea Clinton was was like the vice president of like I think Tinder or something, or she had a lot of stake in that company. Wow.
Yeah, it's Match Group. It's called Match Group.
Wow. Yeah, isn't it amazing how these corporations treat human beings like we're subhuman animals? Isn't it weird how these people they actually meet in these stained glass they sit at these oak tables and these fancy glass tables and discuss their agenda? Isn't it disgusting?
Well, they're turning people into commodities. I mean, look again, going back to OnlyFans, it's the commodification of people.
Yeah.
Really, so you're commodifying sex. You're more or less turning everyone into prostitutes without actually getting laid. Now you just jerk off to a computer screen.
It's disgusting. Yeah, I think it really is. But anyways, yeah.
Well, in France, France just banned people under the age of 18 from having cell phones in schools. So
Yeah.
there are countries that are reacting to this because they realize that it's destroying the social fabric of their society.
Yeah, but that may be another agenda that they have. It may just be another way to further distance people from having socialized. We don't know why they're doing that. I don't believe the French, for example, want to make the world a better place by the French are fucking just as part of the New World Order as anybody else. They want to bring in all the Muslims and all the Africans into their country. They are definitely not a group of people that I could trust by just saying, "Oh, let's get rid of the cell phones," or you know what I'm saying.
Well, if you took the camera off the cell phone, half your fucking problems are gone right there. You know what I mean? Like there are some simple things that can fix and help cure your society. You know, when I heard TikTok was going to be banned, I go, that's amazing. I really hope it gets banned. But well, Walmart bought TikTok. Well, that didn't really help our problem. And TikTok is basically grooming young girls to become, again, prostitutes on social media. So you're grooming girls that are 12, 13, 14, 15, and then they upgrade to Instagram, and then they upgrade to Snapchat Premium, and then they make an OnlyFans, and that's where we are today.
So,
and now I just saw a horrible graph my friend sent to me 2 days ago about how many young women under the age of 21 identify as lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And I see on social media and on dating apps, because I'm on them for the live stream so I can get some information to, for MGTOW content.
Right.
And these girls that are 20, 21, 22, they all have the LGBT flag. I'm bi. Well, if a guy says he's bi, women get scared.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no social stigma when it comes to women being lesbians, but there's still a social stigma about men being gay.
Yeah, well, even like you said, men can't even say I'm bi. Guys will cringe if you say that around them.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
fucking crazy, man.
It is. It's absolutely crazy. Double standard all the way. And so with the what do you think is going to happen? Well, I'm not going to hang on here too much longer because I'm getting tired. But and I would like to do another interview with you if you don't mind. Is that cool?
Yeah, 100%. We'll keep in touch, man.
Yeah, I love talking to you. You're very sharp, and I like your perspective. What's your perspective on the election? Where's it going? Are we going to have a stalled election, or will we have a structured election?
No, Trump will win.
Oh yeah?
I'm not concerned about it. Yeah, Trump all day. But you have to start looking post-Trump. First of all, we don't even know what this whole COVID thing, with him being testing positive. It can be. We have no idea what the truth is anymore. That's another problem. We don't trust anything anymore.
No.
For COVID, wear a mask. Don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Social distance. Don't social distance. It's incoherent, and people are afraid.
Right. It is pretty bad.
So I do see. Regardless, Trump will win. I'm very confident about that. I'm not, I'm not worried about the election as a whole. What my concern is after Trump, post-Trump, where are we in 2024? If we're ever going to get to 2024, we have a lot of fires that need to be. Listen, since Trump got elected, things have only gotten worse. Trump has done a great job shining a bright light on all of our social ills. Mm-hmm. I'll give him credit there. I do not think he's part of the deep state. I don't think he was planned to become the president. I think he fell into it. And that's pretty much it. He's beholden to Wall Street. There's no denying that. And as far as where we're going to see and what we're going to do, I think the white flight out of blue states is going to be exasperated going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And states like New York and California are going to just be predominantly minorities. So you're starting to see kind of like this battle line form where it's going to turn into minority states and predominantly white states.
But what I disagree with you is you don't seem to think that there's a military strategic threat with this country, and I totally do. I think that we're going to be possibly invaded by Russia or the Chinese. You seem to think that it's going to be business as usual, and I disagree.
Okay, I'll put it to you this way.
Our lives are.
Iraq war,
I think physically, you have to understand. You live in New York. I think your life physically is going to be under threat. It isn't going to just be my life's going to suck because I'm not going to be making as much money. I think physical threat is going to be the way of life.
Well, who's doing the threatening?
China, Russia. Okay, if there is a secession of the state of California, California wants to allow China to dock their ships there, or Russia.
Absolutely.
That's a threat. That's a physical threat.
California will be invaded by China. First, though, China doesn't have the naval power to invade the West Coast. That's first.
You're absolutely certain that they don't. How many you don't think that the Chinese, with their size, could in fact you don't think they have the naval power to do it at all?
Not at all. I'm an armchair general. My forte is in military history and naval warfare. It's my obsession since I was a child. I have books upon books upon books upon books of military history. I love this stuff. Mm-hmm. But China, first of all, to be on an offensive country, on the offense, you need an aircraft carrier, regardless of hypersonic missiles and what have you. America has, I think, 15 aircraft carriers, and China only has one aircraft carrier, and it's a cannibalized version of a Kiev class from Russia. It was a hand-me-down from the former Soviet Union. Yeah. China's never been an offensive country. The last time they went on offense was in 1979 when they invaded Vietnam, and it was Vietnamese women that actually fought back and kicked China's ass. And that was when the whole NVA was in the middle of invading Cambodia during the Kampuchea, Pol Pot genocide. Yeah. So the thing with China is China doesn't have arable land anymore. The reason why they don't have arable land anymore is because they built these mega super cities and ghost cities where there used to be farms. So they've destroyed their own agriculture, and that's why they're a net importer.
Okay, but you're wrong. Here's where you're dead wrong. They have invaded Africa, and I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to be politically correct. The Africans can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. They're not strong enough. The Chinese have laid strong on their soil, and they're already taking their minerals. Now, Africa is a strategic threat. If we allow the Chinese to control Africa, that is a major strategic threat.
Well, they've done it through business. I studied this. It's called feeding the dragon. They are in parts of Africa. There's no doubt about it. But I also think there's a whole New World Order agenda to that, where basically we're allowing Africa to basically colonize. We're allowing the Chinese to colonize Africa to do the dirty work. Right. Where we don't even want to get our hands dirty. You know what? If China wants to go build a road in RD Congo and spend 2 years, laying down infrastructure in some godforsaken land, let them do it. Let their guys get their heads lopped off by some fucking warlord in Cameroon. It's not our monkey. Let them go ahead. Let them do all that work. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to take it right back from them because we don't want to get our hands dirty. So you seem to think that
the West... I'm not saying that the Western nations, the white nations, can fight. I think we've lost our will to fight, but there's a much more underlying agenda. If these... it would be nice to think that in the end we could all fight back and things will be fine. But you're making the assumption that we have allies on our side, and we really don't. The United States doesn't...
America has very few... America only has England and Israel in their corner. That's the only two countries that support the United States at this point.
Yeah, and Israel's really not a friend. They're kind of pain in our side, so to speak.
No, yeah, it's kind of like the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
But also you have to understand that China doesn't get along with its neighbors. Vietnam doesn't like China.
Mm-hmm.
South Korea doesn't like China. Japan doesn't like China. Myanmar doesn't like China. India doesn't like China. So you have to take that into perspective. Yeah, sure, they're in Africa, but what is it exactly they're doing in Africa? Okay, they're killing rhinos for their horns, and they're going after minerals and such. But outside of that, they're putting down some basic infrastructure for areas that never had infrastructure, and that's part of Africa's beef with the West, where you're basically when it's they have Africa has two choices. It's either we do business with America or we do business with China. And it was the same way in the Cold War. It's either we work with the Soviet Union or we work with the United States. Mm-hmm. And basically China's way of doing it is doing it through business. We do a business, Steve, okay? Mm-hmm. So, they'll go in, they'll pave a road, they'll build a hospital in exchange for minerals and such. Now, in Pakistan, it's a little bit of a different story where they giving monster loans to Pakistan, and the Pakistani military is like, well, we can't pay these loans off.
Right.
Okay, you've leased our port, okay, and it's a 100-year lease, but we're not getting much out of this, and we're not getting anything out of return. And now the Pakistani military is now up in arms about it, saying, listen, China, you gotta go. So it's a geopolitical move. I think what Trump did as far as North Korea was brilliant, absolutely amazing. Trump making a deal with North Korea because North Korea is China's junkyard dog. So every time China gets mad at the West, they tell North Korea to go launch a missile into the fucking ocean or some shit.
Yeah. I think you have a lot of faith in Trump, and I'm starting to believe that the Trump knows that there's a bigger agenda with COVID-19 and he's not telling us.
Oh, 100%. Look, there is no virus. It's it phased out in April and May. It ended, and basically what the Democratic establishment has done is weaponized it and is trying to basically cuck the economy and ruin people's lives over some silly spat Trump, who's not supposed to be the fucking president. I don't have that much faith in Trump. Listen, to make no mistake about it, I'm post-political. I don't believe in the left-right paradigm that much. Mm-hmm. I think capitalism, communism, it's flip a coin, so to speak. The agenda is neo-feudalism, where it's kind of this whole green agenda. We're all mystery meat, and we all worship BMWs and our cell phones. I think that's the long-term agenda, because if you really think about it, look at your movies, look at your music. It's all about the consumer. It's all hyper-consumption. Everything is under the guise of a monetary value. Again, we talk about OnlyFans. What is OnlyFans? Well, now you're paying to see women naked instead of actually having some type of camaraderie where you're speaking to the person and enjoying the same things. In your day, Steve, men and women shared the same. They shared the same culture. They shared the same spaces. They enjoyed the same music. They enjoyed the same restaurants. Yeah. Like they would enjoy the same. Again, going to the discos.
Rock. If you went to like a Van Halen concert in the '80s, it was guys and girls together. There is no groups of guys and girls together. It's all sexually segregated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly my point. We don't have that anymore. Again, women are in another world.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like the Talking Heads song. The girls want to be with the girls, and the guys have no idea He goes, what does that mean? Tell me, what does that mean? Because the girls do their own thing. Like they're off. They're on another planet. Women are from
and this is there's a lot of people that think women want sex as much as men. They do not. They can go years without it. They don't need it.
Yes, they can.
And if they do want it, they can go out there and play with. They have plenty of marital aids or toys to do it. They don't friggin' need. I mean, I don't think men necessarily need it either. But when they're younger, they certainly do. I mean, at my age, I'm getting kind of up there. So, by the way, you're 32 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, some guy was asking how old you were. Yeah, you're 32. So you're beyond you're not some 20-year-old smart ass that acts like he knows everything. You got a little life experience,
Oh again, I spending some time abroad really shined a bright light on problems in the United States, and I learned a little bit about a third world culture, the way they operate, how important the family unit is. Where in the United States, the family unit is really not that important anymore. And a lot of that stems from baby boomer, unfortunately. I was talking to again T. Kelly recently on his podcast, and I was laughing about how these Trump supporters are out there on their boat waving American flags and their little Trump stickers and Trump decals. That's really not accomplishing anything when you do that. But in fact, what you're doing is really making fun and teasing the people that will never even be able to be on a boat.
Yeah.
What does boat stands for? Boat stands for a bus out another 1,000, right? Yeah. So what are you doing? You're going on your boat, spending hundreds of dollars in fuel, waving an American flag, and making fun of the people that are less fortunate.
Right.
Like, that's really good. Good job. Way to stick it to Black Lives Matter.
Well, one thing I will tell you, too, though, is that the reason why I think Antifa has one thing going for it is that they have gotten the disenfranchised white people who have nothing to lose. These hillbilly rednecks, they have $80,000 pickup trucks, $40,000 Harleys, a lot of them do. They're not all poor. And when you have more to lose and you have nothing to gain. But it's easy to see, if you want to wage war, just find the most destitute people out there, and especially guys that can't meet a woman. Those are the best those are the best people for the job if you're really trying to start a revolution.
Yeah, the cannon fodder.
Yeah, they are cannon fodder for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you look at these people that are protesting again, I look at Black Lives Matter, and these young people, first of all, they're the ones that got affected by COVID. First of all, they don't have COVID. They were locked inside their apartments and paying high rent, losing their jobs, okay? Cooped up over a pandemic when there's really no one dying except for the elderly and people that have underlying or pre-existing conditions. And then look what happened. Okay, Black Lives Matter, go outside and start burning shit to the ground. That's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. And no one's listening to the young people. No one's listening to the people under 40, mind you. This is an entire generation being left out of the property class.
Right,
They can't afford a house. They can't get laid. The women are crazy, okay? The guys are working dead-end jobs. You got kids, young people hooked on fentanyl and opiates.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? And what do? You take a boat out on the weekend to show the world. A big middle finger to those young people. Good job. This is going to end well for you. Good luck in the senior living home. Good luck living in the nursing homes,
You said, where did this happen?
Oh, I'm just saying, in Florida, they had the Trump rallies, taking the boats out and stuff. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, good way to waste a lot of money on a stupid, useless boat. So I tell you, boats.
Instead of being proactive in your community, what do? You decide to take your boat out. Mm-hmm. That's really, really, it's foolish. And now you can see how a communist revolution could come about. Yeah. How the middle class, the bourgeois class, decides to say, let them eat cake. That's okay. We're going to enjoy the weekend. We're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Can I tell you something? I have economically struggled for most of my life because not saying economically, I've made, decent money in some years. But I have relatives that have made very good money since their early 20s. And I've noticed that their behavior is so disgusting because they look down on anybody that doesn't make what they make. And they're not millionaires. And this is what I think the biggest thing that will destroy America is just the division of the, not just the ultra rich and the ultra poor. There's a lot of middle class people that really fucking love their comfort so much that they think everybody else is a piece of shit,
Oh, absolutely, 100%, Steve.
Yeah, I have people like this, and I have.
You're firing on all cylinders, man.
Yeah, and I have family members and out of town, that have good jobs for corporations, and they're making decent money, and they're like, if you bring up this the fear of there being like a new world order. They're like, I don't want to effing hear that. Don't scare me with that shit. I just want to live my life and be married. And that's what their attitude is. Well, I gotta tell you something right now. I have a lot to lose too. I have a lot of financial assets to lose too. But I'm realistic that there's a good chance I'm going to lose them. But these people don't want to let go. They don't want to let go.
They want to go back to 2019, and what I've been trying to reinforce on the normie con, that's what I call them, normie cons, I go, you're not going back. Look at sports. Look at sports. It ain't coming back.
Yeah.
They're taking a knee, your favorite sports team. And you know what the best part is? There's no one in the stands to boo them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So, and you've politicized sports now that they've taken the circus away. Yeah. And guess what? The circus ain't coming back to town. What are you going to do about it? But you see, what the normie con's trying to do is bury their head further into the sand, or they decide to relocate to a red state that still has some type of community. Again, you're talking about the hillbilly, white trash Anglos. No, we're going to go invade their neighborhood now.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these Anglos that have money. Like some of these Anglos, and even like you can't assume that all these people that live in Billy Joe Jenkinsville, that like I said, these big towering trucks that have do you ever see those trucks that are 8 feet off the ground? And it's like you got to have money to buy a truck like that. You just can't be dirt poor, So.
Yeah. But the problem is with that whole. That's the thing. What's happened with those people is the whole OxyContin, fentanyl, heroin aspect of it is where they're trying to kill all them off, and that's been deliberate for the past 50 years.
Oh, no, there's no doubt. I live in a county next door. I live into this county called Lorain County, and they have like one of the top death rates of people dying of fentanyl and heroin in the country. And it's only a couple miles away from me. I mean, at least about a half or a dozen miles away within that perimeter, there's a lot of these white people dying of drug overdoses. It's unbelievable.
Well, what OxyContin does, it provides feeling without any emotion. So it's a strong feeling without emotion. Right. And because the lack of places to go, things to do, and basically thrill-seeking, the death of thrill-seeking in the United States. You'd be surprised how many laws you're breaking in a single day and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Why? Because...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I think I hit the wrong button.
I don't know if you know anything about Sky King.
No, who's Sky King?
You ever heard of Sky King?
No, who's that?
It was in 2018 a 29-year-old airport worker who was working the tarmac, hijacked a plane, and he just flew it.
That was a huge.
Crazy shit. First time in world history.
It's the first time someone's ever.
That story now?
Yes, he's that guy that was. He was like, it was a really nice plane. It was a twin engine prop, like 100-passenger plane that he did it with. That guy, he flew it upside down and stuff. He was nearly. They said that guy was a crazy nut. He hijacked. He figured out how to fly that plane.
Well, he did it. Actually, he had no idea how to fly it. He just took off and just started flying it.
Yeah.
And then he crashed it and died. But he's a prime example of someone that's looking for this type of escapism. So, like when you read, if you ever read the data recorder, he was like, I'm just, I didn't know I was this crazy, but this is the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
It was his way of really going out. So I see this type of problem in the United States where young people just don't have an outlet. And that's why also you see the rise of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, because it's a form of escapism, it's a form of tribalism, and it brings meaning to their lives, and it's very dangerous. And this is, again, this overregulation, and we basically live in a sterile country, and we're kind of like well-behaved prisoners of war. That would be my best description of.
That's a good point there, and you have a very good perspective on it. Like, you have all these disenchanted people that really feel left out in society. And you know what? Like I said, I have a lot of relatives that have good paying jobs. But if you were to bring this up to them, they would say, "Oh, you're a loser. You're a pathetic loser. You just don't know what it's like." And there's such a disconnect between the haves and the have-not. And I'm not talking billionaires. I'm talking Mr. Joe Average that makes 80 to 100,000 a year. They seem to think that people that make half of what they make are losers. You know?
Well, yeah, men feel unauthentic.
Yeah.
You can see this in the rise of tattoos and
Right.
or crime for some. You all can't be rock stars or King Kong out of the block. You know, it's chronic boredom,
Yeah.
restlessness, searches for instant sex without emotional involvement.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing. Like, I have one friend. He's like, you know, we should go and find girls.
Yeah.
I go, dude, that's not how it works. That's what you learn from being brainwashed from Hollywood movies.
Right.
That you think that there's sex right around the corner. There's girls right around the corner. If
There's
you go
not.
to this club, all these girls are going to have sex with you. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. In fact, I would be. Here's what I was posturing this. I thought this. If a guy like you or I, let's say we're a little younger, we could build a time machine, go back to the '60s, and like Kate Ashbury, and I don't think necessarily any guy could just get laid. I think that they had their own little cliques, and if you weren't part of that clique, you weren't in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, correct.
So,
100%. My dad, I was driving around my dad's old neighborhood with him one day.
Yeah.
He was pointing at some house. Oh, there was a girl with big tits that lived there. We stole a boat and got drunk. And I'm like, yo, I didn't get to do any of that crazy cool shit.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, well, it was a different time back then. And then it leads on to nostalgia and how great things were in the past. When we're where we are today, we don't talk about fixing the current problems. We only look back on how good things used to be.
Yeah.
So I think the whole hippie movement and 10 years later with disco, I think there was kind of a relief with women where women went out and actually started having sex and having a good time, but there was still more to the culture and the country was still somewhat healthy at that time.
Right.
It wasn't really until Reagan was a big proponent.
Oh, yeah, you mean the mandatory... Well, I lived through that. You were too young to remember it, but there was this mandatory minimum drug sentencing laws that all these bastard yuppies... Now, here's the thing. All the kids that got to do the drugs in the 70s or 60s and 70s, they all of a sudden became conservative Republicans, and they wanted to push the mandatory minimum drug sentencing. And guess who the victims were? Gen Xers, because there were so many young kids going to jail for this shit.
Yes, it basically that's where the nanny state was birthed out of the Reagan administration, and that's where the whole idea of the deadbeat dad came. Yeah.
The number one flapping thing that's making a comeback is Baby on Board. That's 1987 or 88 that thing came out. Baby on Board. All these fucking yuppies, their daughters, they gave their kids trendy names like Kaylee and Caitlin and Hunter and Dylan and, I don't know. I don't understand what happened to these yuppies, what turned them into what they are. You know?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I lost you there for a split second. What I was...
Yeah. I said that I don't know what caused these people to become such traitors.
So, what Reagan...
What, are we losing contact or what?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I hear you loud and clear, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just says a poor connection. All right, we'll just we'll try to wrap it up here. So what I was just trying to say was under the Reagan administration was the birth of the nanny state.
Mm-hmm.
And when women became, free, the idea was that they had to take some type of social responsibility for the action. So this is where the single mom started to appear, was under the Reagan administration, late 70s, early 80s. And basically the feminists decided to hijack the conservative movement and say, well, we can't, what about him? He has to take responsibility because that's the father of my child. So Reagan brought in this whole TradCon type of attitude where we're going to shame men and we're going to start calling them deadbeat dads, and they have to basically pay off their debt to society through the divorce court.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so that deadbeat dad thing, that was a big article in Newsweek in the early 90s. But they were trying to say, is it morally right to put a guy's face on a milk carton saying deadbeat dad? I mean, they were literally putting guys' faces on public advertising to say this Joe Schmuckenhauser, he's a deadbeat dad. Could you imagine how horrible and traumatic that is to make you feel that shitty?
Hey, look, there's nothing. If you're a guy, there's nothing in this society for you. This country is foreign. You are a foreigner in your own country. How does that feel?
Yeah, that's true. You are. A foreign woman from like an Ethiopian immigrant coming over here has
Listen to modern music.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Sorry, I'm breaking up just a little.
That's all right.
Up a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. And the gist of what you just said is that as a man in this society, you are nothing.
You're nothing. And how do you gauge that? How do you know that you're nothing in your society? Listen to like the top 10 Billboard hits of the week.
Right.
And tell me, is that a music of your own culture?
No.
And you're going to see that the top 10 songs are basically either black, mystery meat, again, mostly black and foreigners and like Hispanics. There's no like white dude singing anymore. And on top of that, building upon that, when was the last time you heard a love song?
No, yeah, you're right. Love songs like of the 70s, like Atlanta Rhythm Section. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's nobody really producing any really quality music anymore. It's just insane.
Yeah, there's nothing there for you. There's no music, man. You can see it in your movies. They're destroying your movies. Look at Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now the new James Bond is going to be a Jamaican lesbian or some shit. Like,
oh, jeez.
Look, you're under attack, man. We are under attack. Make no mistake about it. The only reason why the reason why people think we're not at war is because there's no blood in the street and there's no one taking up arms, when in fact it's a psychological war being waged against you. And 2012 was really the turning point. I think Sandy Hook, that's my goalpost where I think everything changed, was the Sandy Hook shooting, 2012. And shortly after that was the revitalization. They rewrote the Smith-Mundt Act, where now corporate media is allowed to subjugate the American people to propaganda.
What do you? Well, they always have been able to. What do you mean they were allowed to? They've always been.
Not to the level it is today. Like, we're being actually gaslit. We were not gaslit in the past.
What do you mean by gaslit? What do you mean by that?
How do I say? Oh, it's the Proud Boys that are the real terrorists.
I see. So they're allowed to, in other words, say it's a white supremacist conspiracy and only touch on that one thing.
Right.
Yeah,
more or less that.
Well, but see how they were doing that in the late 80s with you were too young to remember, you were just born, but in 1988, 89 there was this so-called revival of the skinheads, and they were making movies about it, and they were gaslighting the shit out of the skinheads, and they were like only they were like a bunch of kids running around with Doc Martens on, and yes, they were doing some terrorist acts, but not on a large scale, and they were making it look like they were taking over the country. It was so ridiculous.
Then Timothy McVeigh.
Right, that type of shit.
Ruby Ridge.
Oh, God.
You gotta love it. Well, hey, listen, man, we're coming up on 2 hours.
Yeah.
Why don't we call it a wrap? That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll definitely keep in touch.
Okay, we will. I'm sorry, I'm tired too, so I will talk to you another time, and thanks a lot for the chat.
If you can, is there a way for me to? I want to mirror this. Will you keep it up for a while?
Yeah, I will. I'll keep it up. I just gotta put something in the description, okay?
All right, beautiful, Steve. Listen, really, really great talking to you. I'll definitely hit you up during the week, and you have a great weekend.
You too. Bye bye.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, guys. I'm gonna get out of here now. It is the 3rd of October 2020, and I have got to get out of here because it's almost 5 minutes till 4 a.m. And you guys have a great day. I'm going to first do description, then I'll put it back up in the public forum.